But that's not the only story everyone's talking about. A leaked audio suggests the only reason he got that probation in the first place is because, just like Gunna, he snitched on Thug. Let me break it down. 5 months. That's all Unfunk had to prove that he could stay out of trouble, follow the rules, and honor the deal that was supposed to keep him free. 5 months to show that 11 years in the pen had taught him how to move different, think different, and avoid the mistakes that had cost him his freedom the first time. But sometimes the streets call you back whether you want to answer or not. May 4th was supposed to be just another day of staying compliant, staying low-key, and staying out the way. Instead, it became the day that everything Unfunk had worked for since his release came crashing down in the most predictable yet devastating way possible. He was arrested in Atlanta on charges of possessing a firearm as a convicted felon, plus charges of evading police and street gang activity, all violating probation terms. The courtroom proceedings that followed were some of the coldest, most heartbreaking legal theater you could ever witness. Kicked off Young Thug's case for his own misconduct, $141 in unpaid fees and incomplete community service. These were administrative violations that could have been handled with payment plans and schedule adjustments. But the gun's legally sound but completely disconnected from the reality of life in the neighborhoods where Unfunk had to exist. In suburban America, gun possession might be about hunting or home protection. In Zone 3 Atlanta, gun possession is often about staying alive long enough to make it home each night. The final sentence was delivered with the kind of bureaucratic 5 months of freedom. The mathematics of mass incarceration are brutal in their simplicity. One mistake, regardless of context or circumstances, can cost you everything you've worked to rebuild. By August 2025, leaked communications started shedding light on the family's private debates over these plea deals. In one tweet, Young Thug himself claimed he told his brother to accept the deal, saying it would spare their mother more pain. However, Thug denying he gave such advice.
Man, but you seen your brother plea?
Most definitely.
But he said you told him to do that.
Man, watch out.
Man, oh God, he telling the truth.
Man, oh God, he kept. On that same God, he kept. Man, he come in for nigga to take a plea and stay alive.
I don't know though. Man.
The hip-hop community's response to these revelations has been characteristically divided. Some view the contradictions as evidence of dishonesty, while others recognize them as the natural result of impossible pressures applied to family relations sentenced with good behavior. This cat did 11 straight years in the Georgia Department of Corrections, where they don't play games and every day is a test of your heart and your mind. When Unfunk hit the bricks in 2020, the world had changed completely. Technology had advanced, the music industry had shifted to streaming, and his baby brother had transformed from neighborhood hustler to international superstar. But family is family, and blood is thicker than any contract or business arrangement.
Oh, that's my brother. That's the baby brother.
Y'all related. Yeah.
When pressed about their connection, Unfunk made it crystal clear this wasn't some distant relative trying to ride coattails.
That's my mama's son.
Oh, that's your brother.
Yeah.
The dynamic between these brothers was beautiful in its authenticity. While Young Thug was out there pushing boundaries, creating new sounds, and revolutionizing what trap music could be, Unfunk was holding it down in the worst possible circumstances. But even from behind bars, he was still dropping gems on his little brother about staying focused on the music instead of getting caught up in street politics.
Okay.
It just, when I got locked up, I just told him, like, go rap. Instead of just going to the street, just go rap. And he just took the advice and just ran with it.
That right there is some real big brother. Even from the pen, Unfunk was trying to guide his little brother away from the same mistakes that had cost him his freedom. Young Thug founded YSL, Young Stoner Life, or Young Slime Life, around 2012, initially as a record label under 300 Entertainment and later Atlantic Records. But YSL was always more than just a label. It was a family business, a way to bring everyone up together, and a legitimate path out of the streets for cats who had been grinding in the trap their whole lives. When Unfunk finally touched down in 2020, he didn't waste time feeling sorry for himself or trying to live off his brother's success. He got straight to work. He signed with YSL shortly after his release and aimed to use his platform for positive change, often discussing redemption in interviews. His debut album, My Struggle, in 2021 featured collaborations with Young Thug, Gunna, and Future, showcasing tracks like Mob Tie's Remix and Real. The title, My Struggle, wasn't just marketing. It was autobiography. Every track on that project represented a piece of his journey from the streets to the pen to the booth. When you've done real time, when you've lost everything and had to rebuild from nothing, your music hits different. There's no faking that pain, no ghostwriting that experience.
Was it overwhelming?
Yeah.
So.
I ain't gonna rush it. I know they're gonna come, so just patient with it.
This was the mindset of someone who had learned patience the hard way. Prison teaches you that everything worth having takes time, that shortcuts lead to setbacks, and that sustainable success requires discipline that most people never develop. The family dynamic during this period was everything that hip-hop claims to represent, but rarely actually delivers. The Williams family consists of 10 siblings, from a large family in Atlanta's Zone 3, with publicly documented siblings, including sisters Dora White and Dolly White, both rappers affiliated with YSL, the late Angela Greer, and brother Quantavious Greer, stage name Unfunk. This wasn't just a record label, it was a family business in the truest sense.
That's hard. So y'all like the Jacksons, like during Christmas time.
Yeah.
Word.
The comparison to the Jackson family was accurate in more ways than one. Both families used music as a vehicle for economic mobility. Both had multiple talented siblings, and both faced the unique pressures that come with mixing family relationships and business interests. But unlike the Jacksons, the Williams family was operating in an environment where success could be interpreted as evidence of criminal activity. Prosecutors alleged YSL was a front for a criminal street gang affiliated with the National Bloods, involved in violent crimes, drug trafficking, and racketeering since 2012. Every platinum plaque, every chart success, every expansion of the label could be twisted into evidence of an expanding criminal enterprise. This wasn't some token family member being given a deal out of obligation. Unfunk was developing his own sound, his own approach, his own identity within the YSL framework.
Like he way over this way. Sometimes I don't know what he be saying. I just vibe with it.
The admission that he didn't always understand Young Thug's artistic choices showed the respect and humility of someone who recognized his brother's genius while carving out his own criminal activity. The setup was perfect for disaster. You had a formerly incarcerated individual trying to rebuild his life through music, supported by a brother whose success was being investigated as potential criminal enterprise. Every studio session, every family gathering, every business meeting was potentially being monitored and interpreted through the lens of criminal conspiracy. Unfunk's excitement about his upcoming projects was genuine and infectious. This was a man who had paid his debt to society, learned from his mistakes, and was ready to use his platform to inspire others. The tragedy is that he would never get the chance to see how far his music could take him. The family's approach to business was refreshingly straightforward.
Yeah.
That's good.
You know, he made it possible. He put the money behind it. And,
Pretty much.
yeah.
Young Thug wasn't just supporting his brother's music career, he was investing in his freedom, providing the resources necessary for successful reintegration into society. But in the hood, no good deed goes unpunished, and success always attracts haters. The very loyalty that made the Williams family strong would soon become the evidence that prosecutors used to justify tearing them apart. The bonds that had sustained them through poverty, violence, and incarceration were about to be tested in ways that no family should ever have to endure. What started as a beautiful redemption story was about to become a federal case that would tear apart everything they had built together. When the feds come knocking. May 9th, 2022 started like any other day in Zone 3, but it ended with the kind of federal raid that legends are made of. When the Alphabet Boys finally made their move on YSL, they didn't come to play. They came to completely destroy everything that Young Thug and his family had built from the ground up.
Man, them folk coming out of trees and all types of snipers. You hear me? Drones, helicopters, all types.
Yak Gotti's description of that morning sounds like some military operation in a foreign country, not a music industry investigation in Atlanta, Georgia. But that's exactly how the feds wanted it. Maximum shock and awe to send a message that nobody was untouchable. The scope of the operation was designed to terrorize. Young Thug and 27 others were indicted on 56 counts under RICO, including gang activity, murder, and drugs, with assets seized during raids. They wasn't just arresting people, they was dismantling an entire ecosystem, seizing cars, jewelry, cash, and anything else that could be connected to their alleged criminal enterprise. For Unfunk, this raid represents exactly how to play the game. They arrest everyone at once, set impossibly high bonds, and then start offering deals to the smaller fish in exchange for testimony against the bigger targets. It's a tried and true strategy that has dismantled everything from mob families to drug cartels, and now they was applying it to a hip-hop collective. For Unfunk, the calculus was particularly brutal. He had already done 11 years. He knew exactly what prison felt like, exactly what he would be losing if he went back. More importantly, he knew what his family would go through watching him disappear again. His teenage daughter, who had already lost her father for most of her childhood, would have to watch him get buried in the system for potentially decades. The plea negotiations revealed the cold mathematics of federal prosecutions. In December 2022, Unfunk entered an offered plea, guilty while maintaining innocence, to and 10 years probation. The offered plea allowed him to maintain his innocence while acknowledging that the government had enough evidence to potentially convict him at trial, but the conditions conditions of that plea were designed to set him up for failure. He was sentenced to 12 years probation, 750 hours of community service, abide by a curfew, can't have a gun, and must not have any contact with his brother Young Thug and other defendants until the case is over. Think about how cold that is. A man who had just been reunited with his family after 11 years was now legally prohibited from talking to his own brother. The no contact provision was particularly vicious because it attacked the very foundation of their relationship. These brothers had maintained their bond through 11 years of separation, with Young Thug providing financial support, legal assistance, and emotional encouragement throughout Unfunk's incarceration. Now, when Unfunk needed that support the most, the legal system was forcing them apart. But that wasn't even the worst part. The deal states that Greer must testify, but also has Fifth Amendment rights against self-incrimination. This created an impossible legal tightrope. If prosecutors called him to testify against his brother, he would have to choose between violating his plea agreement or potentially incriminating himself and his family members. The psychological warfare embedded in these plea terms cannot be overstated. Every family conversation, every business meeting, every casual interaction was now potentially subject to subpoena. Unfunk's very presence in his brother's life had become a legal liability that could be weaponized at any moment. The response from the hip-hop community revealed deep divisions about what constitutes cooperation versus survival. Unfunk responded to snitching allegations by saying, "Damn, people really think I told on my own brother SMH, show me in my paperwork. I told on anybody, Lowell. I'm not even finna entertain any of it. Peace and blessings." His frustration was understandable. He was being accused of betraying his own blood based on legal maneuvers that were designed to protect his family. The broader context reveals that Unfunk wasn't alone in facing these impossible choices. Other co-defendants like Gunna had taken earlier pleas, and Young Thug reportedly advised Unfunk to take this deal after others had already pled out. This created a domino effect where each plea deal increased pressure on remaining defendants to follow suit. The timing of these decisions was crucial. By December 2022, several high-profile defendants had already taken pleas, including Gunna, whose deal had sparked its own controversy within the hip-hop community. Young Thug was still fighting his case, but the writing was on the wall. The feds had successfully divided the defendants and were picking them off one by one. The advice that Young Thug allegedly gave his brother reveals the impossible position that family loyalty created within the legal framework. Recent leaked communications suggest that Young Thug claims he advised Unfunk to take the plea deal only after others had, defending it as helping my brother and not snitching. The phrase helping my brother speaks to a different set of values than what the legal system recognizes. From Young Thug's perspective, watching other defendants take deals while his brother held out for trial wasn't about principle. It was about practicality. Why should Unfunk risk decades in prison when other people with similar charges were walking away with probation? More importantly, why should their mother have to watch another son potentially disappear and doesn't always translate to success in the streets? And the conditions of Unfunk's probation were about to create new forms of vulnerability that he couldn't have anticipated. The very deal that was meant to secure his freedom would soon become the mechanism for his destruction. The family dynamics during this period were strained beyond anything they had previously experienced. Young Thug was fighting for his life in court while watching his brother navigate probation terms that seemed designed to ensure failure. Unfunk was trying to rebuild his life while legally prohibited from accessing the very support system that had sustained him through his darkest period. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed watching this video, click on one of the boxes playing on your screen to watch more similar content. Surveillance, watching a black Mercedes G-Wagon with several people gathered around it like they're conducting business. The cops got suspicious, thinking they were witnessing a drug deal go down right there in broad daylight. When they pulled Unfunk over for a window tint violation, that's when everything went sideways. Officers smelled that faint odor of marijuana and spotted a 9mm Glock handgun sitting in plain view in the driver's side door panel. Now here's where it gets interesting. Greer told the officers the gun was clean, meaning legally registered. But there's one problem with that logic. Homeboy was on probation from his YSL RICO plea deal, and possession of any firearm was strictly forbidden. The irony is thick here, fam. This is the same dude who just 6 months earlier had taken a plea deal to avoid exactly this kind of situation. Greer was charged with possession of a firearm by a convicted felon, associating with a criminal street gang to participate in illegal activity, and minor traffic offenses, including window tint violation and not wearing a seatbelt. The judge wasn't having any of it when bond was requested, denied immediately.
You owe $141.08 in fees. You haven't started any of the community service in this particular case, so I find those to be proven violations. But, you know, those are relatively minor.
On June 5th, 2023, Judge Earl Glanville revoked Greer's probation and sentenced him to 9 years and 6 months in prison. The judge made it crystal clear why this happened.
Mr. Greer, I take no pleasure in us being here again, but do you recall when I sentenced you on the 20th of December that I went through certain things that you were expected to do at that point in time? And part of the special condition was that you're not supposed to possess a gun. All you had to do is complete your probation and do what you're supposed to do.
But Unfunk wasn't just caught with a gun. He also hadn't paid his $141.08 in probation fees and hadn't even started his required 750 hours of community service. Now let's break down this whole YSL RICO situation that got everyone caught up. In May 2022, Young Thug, his brother Quantavious Greer, and 26 others were indicted in Fulton County, Georgia, under the Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act. Prosecutors weren't just going after a record label. They claimed Young Stoner Life was actually Young Slime Life, a criminal street gang affiliated with the Bloods responsible for murder, armed robbery, and drug dealing over the past decade. The case became Georgia's longest-running criminal trial, and boy did it have drama. We're talking about a nearly 10-month jury selection process, followed by 11 months of testimony. The trial was disrupted by events like the stabbing of defendant Shannon Stillwell, the arrest of a juror and a lawyer, and the recusal of Judge Earl Glanville in July 2024 after a secret meeting with prosecutors and a witness. Here's where Unfunk's story gets messy. In December 2022, Greer pleaded guilty to 1 count of violating Georgia's RICO Act and 1 count of theft by receiving stolen property.
Like they said, it was a 12-year sentence, and it was 2 years commuted to time served. So that means that you got 10 years of a suspended sentence. Now that is a suspended sentence.
He got sentenced to 12 years, but here's the kicker. 2 years were commuted to time served, and the remaining 10 years were to be served on probation. The conditions of his probation were strict: 750 hours of community service, a 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. curfew, no contact with Young Thug or other co-defendants except through attorneys, and absolutely no firearms. But the most controversial part, Greer was required to testify truthfully if called, while retaining his Fifth Amendment rights. This clause is what set the hip-hop world on fire with accusations of snitching. The other YSL defendants had mixed fates. Gunna took an offered plea in December 2022, maintaining his innocence while acknowledging the prosecution's evidence. He got 5 years with 1 year commuted to time served and 4 years suspended, plus 500 hours of community service speaking against gang violence. Like Unfunk, Gunna faced similar snitching accusations from the community.
Yeah, it's
What's the
definitely
difference between Gunna and his brother plea?
It ain't no difference really, bro. So if we saying we mad at Gunna about taking a plea, we need to be mad at everybody then, bro.
Young Thug himself was released on October 31st, 2024, after pleading guilty to 6 counts and no contest to 2 counts. He received a 40-year sentence, 5 years commuted to time served, 15 years on probation, and a backloaded 20 years if probation is violated. His conditions include a 10-year ban from Metro Atlanta except for specific events, 4 annual anti-gang presentations, and no contact with gang members or co-defendants except Gunna and Greer due to contractual obligations. The trial ended in December 2024 with no murder convictions, as most defendants took plea deals or were acquitted. Yak Gotti was found not guilty on all counts, while Shannon Stillwell was found guilty only on 1 count of possession of a firearm by a convicted felon and got 10 years with 2 years commuted to time served. Now here's where things get spicy. The hip-hop community has always had a strict code against cooperating with authorities, and both Unfunk and Gunna found themselves at the center of snitching allegations. Greer addressed these allegations on Instagram stories, writing, "Damn, people really think I told on my own brother, SMH." His attorney Nicole Mormon clarified that Greer had not cooperated and had not agreed to testify against any of his co-defendants in the trial, but the damage was done. The clause requiring him to testify if called meant that even without explicit cooperation, Greer could potentially be compelled to speak about others' actions. As attorney Daryl Cohen explained, the Fifth Amendment only protects against self-incrimination, not testimony about others, which fueled fears that Greer could be forced to speak against Young Thug. Additionally, Young Thug maintained that he wanted to help his brother for a reduced sentence. However, a leaked audio call shows that it was all clearly a lie.
Man, but you seen your brother plea?
Most definitely.
But he said you told him to do that.
Man, watch out.
Man, on God, that's what he telling the truth.
Man, on God, he kept. On that same gun, he kept.
Then came the bombshell that nobody saw coming. In August 2025, a nearly 2-hour audio clip surfaced, allegedly featuring Young Thug discussing associates connected to criminal activities, including Pee Wee Roscoe, linked to a 2015 shooting of Lil Wayne's tour bus.
Bro, it's so easy. They tell you you have the right to remain silent. Anything used against you could be used in the court of law, whatever the they say. You have the right to call an attorney right now. You spoke for 2 hours.
In the recording, the voice presumed to be Thug expresses uncertainty about identifying the shooter, stating he did not want to compromise legal proceedings by making definitive accusations.
This Wayne from New Orleans. I'm from Atlanta. This in Atlanta, and I was in New Orleans. I said, what the fuck? That was so weird. This damn shot it into us. Honestly, I don't know who the they said Roscoe, but I don't wanna block out y'all case by saying Roscoe didn't do that. Roscoe, man, that man, scrub. That fool. I'm like, you shot at somebody, bro. But I don't know, cause every day niggas fuck ball. I don't know. I honestly don't know.
Young Thug responded to the leak on social media, questioning why the interrogation footage was not used in court, writing, "They didn't play my interrogation video in court because I helped my brother hash ratware." He framed his actions as demonstrating loyalty rather than cooperation. Pee Wee Roscoe publicly supported Thug, describing him as loyal and emphasizing that the audio did not indicate snitching. The timing of this leak is suspicious, coming after Young Thug's release and the trial's conclusion. It seems designed to stir controversy rather than impact legal proceedings. Fans rallied behind Young Thug, with many viewing the leaked audio as an attempt to undermine his loyalty-focused image, while a few other rappers were less lenient. Unfunk's murder case and the 11-year nightmare. Let's dive deep into the criminal history that shaped Quantavious Greer long before the YSL drama ever started. This story begins in December 2007 with a robbery gone wrong that would cost a man his life and send Unfunk behind bars for over a decade. December 2007, Greer was involved in the robbery and fatal shooting of James Yarborough in Atlanta. The setup was straight out of a street movie. Remian Rawlings and Darius Jordan offered a ride to Yarborough and his nephew Kenneth Kaiser, who were walking to a check cashing store. After Yarborough cashed his check and purchased drugs from Jordan, the group drove to Greer's mother's house. That's when things turned deadly. A man approached the car with a gun, robbing Yarborough and Kaiser of their cash and drugs before pulling the trigger and ending Yarborough's life right there. The key witness, Remian Rawlings, who was granted immunity by Fulton County District Attorney Paul Howard in exchange for his testimony. Rawlings pointed the finger directly at Greer, claiming he was the shooter. In June 2010, a Fulton County grand jury indicted Greer on 2 counts of felony murder, 2 counts of armed robbery, 2 counts of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, 1 count of possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony, and 1 count of possession of a firearm by a first offender probationer. The trial in December 2010 resulted in guilty verdicts on all counts, and Greer was sentenced to life imprisonment plus additional years. But here's where this case gets really interesting, and why it took 11—
That's my brother. That's the baby brother.
Y'all related?
Yeah, that's my mama's son.
Oh, that's your brother.
Yeah,
When Greer was released from prison in 2019 after his murder conviction was overturned, he didn't waste time feeling sorry for himself. He adopted the stage name Unfunk and began pursuing a rap career, inspired by his brother's success and the Atlanta hip-hop scene. His style was raw and authentic, what he called pain music, embedding storytelling about his incarceration and street life into every bar he spit. Here's what's interesting about Unfunk's approach to music. He chose to create fresh material after his release instead of relying on lyrics he'd written during his 11-year prison stint. He wanted his music to reflect his new perspective and growth, not just rehash old pain. Influenced by artists like Young Money, Cash Money, and Andre 3000, Greer developed his unique sound under the mentorship of Young Thug, who gave him advice to feed your mind and focus on authentic growth. Signing with Young Stoner Life Records was a game changer for Greer's career. This wasn't just nepotism. Young Thug recognized his brother's talent and gave him the platform to showcase it. The YSL connection provided access to high-profile collaborations and the kind of industry support that most struggling artists can only dream about. The breakthrough moment came with Greer's feature on Real from Young Thug's Slime Language 2 album in 2021. This track wasn't just another collaboration, it was a raw display of brotherly chemistry, with Greer's gritty storytelling complementing Thug's melodic flow perfectly. The song's emotional depth and authentic pain resonated with fans, earning praise on social media for special. In June 2021, Greer released his debut project My Struggle, featuring collaborations with with Young Thug, Future, and Gunna. This wasn't just another mixtape. It was Greer's statement to the world about his journey from a life sentence to redemption. Tracks like Running Out of Patience showcased his introspective storytelling ability, with fans respecting the raw emotion and authentic experiences he brought to every offered hope that their musical collaboration could resume once Greer completes his sentence. Though his current incarceration limits immediate opportunity, is its authenticity in an industry often criticized for fake friendships and manufactured drama. The brothers' bond has been tested by poverty, incarceration, legal troubles, and public scrutiny, yet it has endured. Young Thug's consistent references to family loyalty in his music, combined with his actions during Greer's legal battles, demonstrate a commitment that goes beyond typical industry relationships. The cultural significance of their relationship extends beyond personal bonds to represent broader themes in hip-hop about family, loyalty, and overcoming adversity. Their story resonates with fans who value authenticity and understand the challenges of maintaining relationships under extreme pressure. Social media comments like "Thug and Unfunk's story is real. They've been through it all," reflect this connection. Greer's career was unfortunately cut short just as it was gaining momentum. His 2023 arrest for the probation violation effectively ended his ability to capitalize on the success of My Struggle and his growing fan base. The timing was particularly frustrating because he had been building legitimate momentum in the music industry, moving beyond his brother's shadow to establish his own identity as an artist. The personal cost of Greer's legal troubles extends beyond his own life to impact his family relationships and career aspirations. His incarceration means missed opportunities for musical collaborations with Young Thug, who is now focused on rebuilding his own career after his 2024 release. The brothers